This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, hello everyone, and I want to thank you all for coming. This has been quite a year. When we look at 2021 and 2022 and all the authors that have come forward and participated from all over the world, it's just been mind-boggling, amazing, and absolutely inspirational. This morning, the way we're going to handle this is I'm going to be turning the baton over to Doug here shortly. And because I think on behalf of Global Chamber, thanking the moderators from this past year is a very important thing to do. Once we have thanked them for their participation, I'm going to ask for any of you who have read a book from another author, one of your colleagues here, to raise, maybe go down to reactions here and maybe raise the hand like that as an example. And give your review of, identify the book, the author, and give your review on what that book did for you. And then when we're done with that, then we'll go over to Doug, and he's going to share with everyone what his vision moving forward for Global Chamber in 2023 is. How's that sound?
Great.
Okay, Doug, where are you?
I'm right here. How are you?
Okay. Would you take the baton now as it relates to the moderators?
Sure. I'm happy to go ahead. How would you like to start?
Well, you will identify them to everyone, who they are. I don't know if all the moderators are here, but identify them for what they have contributed this past year.
Okay. No, that sounds great. From our perspective, this has been just an amazing, special journey to from the moderators to the authors to the stories to the tips and techniques, and really appreciate the moderators that have done such a great job this year. Let me I can't find the document, so I'm going to be a little bit running blind. So I just want to have, maybe if you could, Gloria, recognize them in your own way as well. I see Dwayne on here, and I know one of my favorite moderators of all time is Dwayne and Lainey. The work that you have done in terms of not just your books, but in the moderation, we really appreciate it. So thank you for your support. Thank you for all the work that you've done. I started by talking a little bit about what this has all meant for us, in our community. It's also been very personally satisfying for me, in the sense I very vividly remember walking the dog through Palo Alto and listening to one session with Susan Schultz and several other people on the call. And when she was talking, finally the book came clear that we needed to write. And so I hope and expect that many of you have had epiphanies when you've heard other the moderators and the speakers and all these authors as they've been telling their stories. Hopefully you've been similarly inspired. That led to Cesar and my book, and then going a little bit further as these things happen, right? One thing leads to another unexpectedly. We had a new member with a person, Shirzad Shamin, who wrote the book Positive Intelligence. Hopefully he'll be a speaker in 2023. That came to us because this member of ours said, hey, you and Cesar are writing this book. You should make sure that you're on the same page, and you should benefit from Shirzad's, what he's done with his story. And the next thing you know, we were not only positively benefited by what his book talks about and his story, but we'll all, I think, benefit from that next year. So Gloria, thank you. Going back to moderators, thank you for your moderation as well. And I'll turn the microphone back to you.
Okay, well, our moderators this past year, and certainly the last 2 years, Lainey, if you'll raise your hand as I call out your name. Lainey has been one. Dwayne, I'm looking at my book here. I should remember all of them. Jacqueline Wales. Don't think she's here today. She's been a moderator. Let's see, Dwayne. Professor Roberto Ancas, is he here? No, I don't see him either. And we had Alex Devereaux. Are you here? There he
I'm here.
is. There he is. Okay.
Oh,
I've got
Alex
the whole,
is here.
I've got the whole gallery up here, so I'm searching for all of you. He's been a great, and he's done 2 years of moderation for us, which is great. Certainly Doug has been a moderator for us. Did I miss anybody? I think we got it all. And then we're going into 2023 where everybody wants to come back and do it again. But we also want to bring some new faces into it. So some new people starting in January will be Dana, will be moderating, Elise, and she's there. Will be moderating, and Sarita will be moderating. So we have some new people coming in to the fold also. And if you're interested in moderating, just let me know, because sometimes at the last minute a moderator can't. That does happen. It has happened. So just let us know so we know where to plug you in and give you that opportunity. That being
Gloria.
said, yes.
One more moderator that we didn't mention was Shankar
Oh,
Damodaran.
Shank, I'm
He's
so
not-
sorry.
He's not here, but I don't
There
think
he
He's right
is.
there. I see
Oh,
him.
Yeah, there he is.
okay.
He's
Okay,
right
I'm here.
You know what?
Thank you very much. Good to
When
meet you all.
Yeah, when I'm looking at all these names and just to tie it down to just 12 names now, but yeah, and this was your first one, and he will be back moderating it again next year. Before we assign our moderators months to them, one of the things Doug's going to ask you about later in this show is time. I know mornings are good for a lot of people, especially in the US, but internationally, it's not a good time. So we might pick some afternoon times. And once we do that, then I'll send out the months that have the morning times and the months that have the afternoon times, and then moderators can decide from there. And I think we might have a moderator coming in from Australia too.
Yep.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
Correct?
we have 12 out of 12 months filled, but as Gloria
do.
mentioned, it's always good to have backups, and 2024 will be here before you know it. And so we'll need to schedule those through the year, because Christelle will be, I think, one of them for next year. And Australia, as you might have heard, is at the bottom of the world, and it's on the other side of the world. And so we'll need to accommodate that.
Yeah. And moderators who want to be backup, trust me, you will definitely be 2024 if you aren't backup next year. But so this is moving along really, really great. But I think what I want to do here is certainly I'm reaching over here and I'm doing my celebration here, right here. I wanted to wait because I didn't want my bubbles to go flat.
Oh,
So this
wow.
is a congratulations to all of us.
Wow.
Peach champagne.
There we go.
Did you pour that bottle right here? Just
Yeah,
to-
I pass it on. I pass it around. I want to make sure my bubbles were in place, so I didn't want to do it too early, that they go flat. But congratulations to everyone in your works, especially those of you who didn't think that you had a book in you and then you came out with it. And I don't want to massacre this name because I struggle with it every time I see it. But Majoy, is that correct? Don't think he's here. But he's writing a book on his version of networking. And
Manoj.
Pardon?
Manoj.
Okay, I definitely want to read that book, because when I selected the books that I read this year, I selected books that tied into what I was trying to accomplish. And in a way to get a new kind of inspiration from that particular author and mindset, because it tied right in. And certainly as I rewrite my book on networking next year, I want to read his book to kind of get a more worldly view of networking from that perspective. So that's kind of what I did. But I'm going to do my review last because some of them I think will already have been said. So I'll pick up one that might have been missed, but just to kind of let you know, I worked hard at it. I did all these books. I did 1,
Oh
2,
my
3,
God.
4, 5,
Wow.
6, 7, no, 8. I did 8 of you.
Nice.
Wow.
You're amazing.
No, and then y'all
Which is-
tied in. Y'all tied in
which-
someplace.
Which was your favorite, and which one didn't you like very much?
They were all favorites in different ways. How's that? In different ways they were.
Well
Okay.
answered.
But they
Perfect.
did tie in. And
Good
the one I
answer. Good
selected-
answer.
And the one I do the review on is the one that maybe I know a couple of you are giving reviews on books that I've already read. So I don't want to do those reviews because they're already going to have been said. but some of them are just reconfirming what I already knew, if you will. A couple of them did that, and just kind of gave me a little bit more insights into things I hadn't thought about in that particular area. Others, as I wrote my recent book, the one that is out, actually, I'm going to say something about Lon Safko for a minute. Lon Safko told us when he was here giving us some advice on publishers. And I think that, Alex, you're going to relate to this. Alex, Lon told us that Amazon was really tightening up on who they were accepting as authors, really tightening the ship. I am finding that out because my book is done, Mindfulness and Health Watch, which is a journal. And twice now it's been not turned down, but told that they didn't like my ISBN. So then I had to go back and reassign an ISBN because they didn't like it for some reason.
Wow.
Then that's another 24 to 48 hour wait. Now they're saying, I just got a note from them 2 days ago saying the classification's not right for the content. I thought, oh, so now I have to wait we had to reclassify my book. And again, Alex can speak to this, I'm sure. We had to reclassify it based on what they told us that they found. And then I have to wait another 24 to 48 hours to see if they accept it. And if they don't, they'll tell me what else I need to change. So they have tightened up. I will tell all of you that right now because I'm experiencing that. So anyway, that being said, I do want to spend most of this time on reviews. And I know some great reviews are coming up. And so a couple of them I know are there because I'm going to call on you. And anybody else who has a review of a book, all I want you to do is go down to your reactions and put up your raised hand so we can find you. And Doug, help me find them in case I miss them because there's a lot of people on here. It's hard to miss them. But at least I know you have one. So will you talk about yours, please?
Okay, I'm reviewing Todd Cornell's book, The Heart of China, and I will just read the review that I wrote. The author is expertly versed in all things China, not just because he speaks, reads, and writes the language, but mainly because he lived in China for over 20 years as a local. Expats worldwide face the daily struggle of living abroad and adapting to their new home country, while some never mentally leave their own country of origin. Unlike them, very few foreigners can attest to what the author achieved in China. From his perspective, he brings you all you would need to know about dealing with the Chinese, learning about their philosophies and mystical ways, whether through Qigong or other ancient modalities. As a bonus, he gives pointers on the correct way to conduct business in China. He is so well-rounded, I'm surprised the US government didn't tap him a Medal of Honor.
Oh, that is amazing. And one of the things I suggested in my note to everyone this morning is if you did write it like that, copy and paste it into the chat because there's 3 dots to the right of the chat that you can actually click on and save. So Todd, you can save her comment forever. Thank you. Thank you. And I think we'll go to Lainey next because I see she popped up over here.
Morning, everybody. Thank you, Gloria. When I finished Tony Kitchen's book, and I don't think Tony's with us this morning, I made a note to myself that it was like listening to a friend talk to you through the pages. Tony Kitchens, in case you haven't met him, is an entrepreneur, a coach, a speaker, and fortunate for all of us, he's an author because I think you'll want to read his book. His book is titled The Gift of Pain, which isn't, when I first got it, I saw the title and I thought, I'm not so sure I'm excited about reading this. But when I got done, I was very glad I had, because Tony's attitude isn't about no pain, no gain. He says pain brings gain. And you will be happy that you unwrap that gift in reading his book. He shares his stories about successes and failures, pain in his life. He shares his vision, where he believes that pain brings us lessons that allow us to build our mental toughness, which he sees as the secret to a life of success. He doesn't pretend that pain doesn't hurt. Rather, he asks our readers, listen to me, that's how much I feel involved in this book. He asks his readers to lean into their pain and to look for the learning that will come from the experience. He says, embrace your fear and prove it wrong. Don't build a bubble around yourself to try not to feel the pain, but rather see that as a life experience that's going to change your life as long as you look for the learning. So I encourage you to let Tony talk to you through the pages. It's an interesting and valuable ride. And the book is The Gift of Pain by Tony Kitchens. Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you. I guess that's going to be on my 2023 list now. It's a good one. Todd, you had a review. Now you're going to give one. Great. You're on.
Also going to review Elisa's book. We
Oh.
sort of had a you read my book, I'll read yours agreement. And so I'll just do the same thing that she did. I think that's a good idea, just to read the review that I wrote for her. And it is definitely fast moving. This book is full of dysfunction and discovery, self-discovery, not for the light at heart or turtle paste couch potatoes. The book gets you up and moving through family dysfunction, something that we can all relate to as Americans, and world travel, something we don't do enough of. The author did a great job of blending raw emotional energy, sexual discovery, travel, and humor, sometimes in one sentence. I'll be looking for the sequel. It was really a pretty amazing book. Couldn't put it down. So it was an easy read. Gets you caught, and you're on a roller coaster for the whole thing.
Oh, another one to add. Thank you.
Could we get the title of the book?
Yes, the title of the book is Under My Skin, and it looks like that. It's
And it
very
sounds-
easy to find on Amazon, and I was also impressed now to see that she's gotten so many reviews. So congratulations.
And it sounds like she does get under your skin as you read it. Dana, I see your hand up.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to kind of just piggyback on Lainey because, yes, I read Tony Kitchens' book as well, not just because he's a member of Global Chamber of Atlanta, our metro, but because it's a great book, and he tells the story from his personal experiences growing up. And as Lainey said, the life lessons from pain is a gift. And if you look at his book, and I'm sorry I can't show it to you at the moment, but if you flip it around, the title is The Gift of Pain upside down as well. So any way you look at it, there's a gift in it. So we look for the lessons, we look for the blessings. And his book also talks about his efforts and struggles to find balance, because he is truly committed and dedicated to his craft and his work. And sometimes finding the balance is part of that challenge. That was one of the areas of pain. And I appreciate the way he just intertwined the stories and brought victory through that. So it's a great read.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else, I don't see any more hands up. Anyone else have read a book that they want to comment on?
Yes, yeah, I do. Gloria, I didn't raise my hand, just waiting for everybody else to get their chance, but I see Stephanie has hers up. So I'll wait for Stephanie.
Okay, Stephanie.
Yes, I would like to, I read a couple of books, but the one I want to speak to is Elise's book, Under My Skin. When I read that book and put myself in her place during that time frame, this vibrant person who was not afraid of anything. And for her to be on the road, being the journalist, being with the rock and roll, the Kiss band, and her having to stand up for her rights and what she believed, and as well as dysfunction, and her coming from a family of dysfunction. I think all of us come from a dysfunctional family some way or another, and her being able to relay that in the book, I thought it was an excellent book. It made me smile because I know who Elise is now, and I just can imagine her probably being even more ferocious during that time. And for her to just to be able to put that in the book and her experiences and her being able to speak her mind and sharing and traveling, and that book just make you feel like you're there with her during this time. So I thought it was a great book. I really appreciate that. And then also to piggyback on the next book that I read, of course, is Tea with Strings with Dana Austin. And the Tea with Strings, just how she captured different cultures of the teas and what they're used for, and how the tea, how it began. And so, as everyone knows, Dana Austin is my sister. However, I didn't realize the gift my sister had with teas and how tea brings people together, and also how tea is good for different ailments as well as things just to make you feel better. So I think both books were great books, and I can't wait to read Todd's book and other books as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dwayne.
Okay, the book I read, I hope you can see this here. There we go. Now you can see it.
Yeah.
And I'll just read my review for this. Happened to meet this young man some time ago, and met him just as his book was coming out. So I followed him and his process, and he's now a part of our group and has done a presenting on our show here this last year, and hopefully we'll have him on again. But this book is practical, insightful, challenging, and encouraging. The focus is on providing a clear plan to increase revenues. The plan and considerations include guidance for the strategic, tactical, and emotional issues that confront and reduce outcomes for the whole team. The book presents guidance in aggressive tones and style, making it fun and stimulating. It is a personal challenge for the readers to set high goals and then pay the price of creativity, talent, skills, and discipline to exceed their goals. I highly recommend the book for its clarity, breadth, and motivating style. It will have you bouncing to take action as you read. This is a very important read to launch into your next phases. You will be relentless. And of course, the book is by Michael T. Peterson, and I will post this in the chat right now.
Thank you. Anyone else have a book that they've read? Well, then I will do mine. First of all, I think one of the first books I read was actually Exceptional Teams by Dwayne. And I read this because as an entrepreneur, as an independent author, speaker, trainer, etc., and especially during the COVID and all of that, I have really lost contact with teams and leadership and management and what goes on there. And the other inspiration to read it is my son, who works for Quantico in DC, was promoted from his usual position. I don't know the name of his position, but he was promoted to management. And he did not want to manage people. He just wanted to manage himself and take a project from A to Z and just be done with it. But after so many years at Quantico, they really felt he had a certain skill set, a social skill set that they thought would be best used in the management realm. And I sent him a copy of the book, and I read it too, so he and I could have conversations about it. So it was a great learning for me. It brought me up to speed on what is going on in that world, especially if you're not working in that world anymore. I worked in it at one time, but I haven't for years, because when you go off on your own, you lose. There's some things that you lose. And so you have to get back in touch. So that was great. I will keep going because we've got some time here, unless somebody else has one. One of the first books I read way back in the when did you write your first book? Let's see. Kiss, bow, shake hands, Terry. What was that first edition? Is right here. Very first edition, right here. You wrote it when?
Oh, 1990.
Yeah.
When I started the firm in 1991, and Yeah, so the book came out of the database. So I think it got published, the first iteration in 94, in the beginning of 94, yeah.
Well, it's not a book you read from first page to last page. I'll tell you that right now.
No.
You just don't do that. But when I got back from my training at the protocol school in Washington, DC, it just come out, and it helped me even more than the training. Let me put it this way. It made sense out of the training, because when you go through that kind of training, you go through it so fast, and they try to cram so much important information into your brain in a week's time. You really need a book like that to go back and refresh. Okay, now let's look at this country. Let's look at this specific country and how this all relates. So that was very, very valuable to me.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna look at, yeah, it was. And the comment on pain, the book on pain, I think that ties right into Jacqueline's book too, because he, what's the name? Give me the author's name. Tony Randall, Tony? Is that correct?
Tony Kitchen.
Kitchen.
Tony Kitchen, I'm sorry. Okay, Tony Kitchen. My mind went blank for a second. Thank you. But when you talk about how he addresses pain in that way, Jacqueline does it too, but she does it in a different way. She does it from a fear perspective. And I thought, oh, I don't really know if I want to read Jacqueline's book because it's about fear. And I think I got that. I think I figured it out. I think I've moved on. But guess what? There have been things that have been going on in my life, personal life, etc., that I thought, oh, yeah, that is a fear. When you're worried about what somebody thinks or a family member thinks, or maybe you might have upset a family member. So now your gain's thrown off a little bit because you're worried about them getting upset with you over such. And the reality is they didn't. But your fear made you think they did, but they didn't. Does that make sense to everyone? So, I kind of got that from it. Michael Quigley, his book was just totally fun. I took my first cold shower after I read this book. Because he talks about the impact of, there's a lot that he talks about spiritually. Okay. But the one thing he said is about that, when you start out with a hot shower, then you should end with it going cold and what that does to the body. I thought, you got to be kidding. That's scary to do. Really scary to do. But
I'm so glad you explained that.
Pardon?
I'm so glad you explained that.
Well, it just really revs you up and wakes up your body. So if you're sluggish in any way, trust me, after you do that, you will not be sluggish at all. But it's a holistic, happy life, and you really put the happy spin on your life and what you want to do with it. Another one was by Michael Seaver, and it's called I Know. And he just really tells you about his journey, about how he was here, he was on top of his game, and then he went way down here. He lost everything, and he met someone special in his life who put him on a spiritual type journey. They helped pull him out of that and where he is today with it. So there were different pieces as you go through it and read it, you start to relate, because his life is not, it's unique to him, but it's not unique to what goes on and what we all go through. It's not unique in that way. But I started recognizing even pieces of me in some of that journey and what he went through and how he got to where he is today. So much so that I had to have a one-on-one Zoom call with him over some things that he put in his book that he raised some curiosities, let's put it that way, some things that I had not thought of before from the spiritual realm. And so I had to have a conversation with him about that and kind of checking that out. And then there's Junko's book about financial transition. Well, I'd rather just I don't really want to worry about the finances. Any of you like that? You just want to go and do it. You don't want money to stop you. And I thought, and I'm in a situation now where I really have to look at some of the things that she's recommending for women who go through an area where they feel financially safe, and then maybe what's coming is not going to be so financially safe for them. From that perspective, don't want to go any further than that. But she gave me some good advice as I moved on that journey. The Power of the Published. I've been busy. I try to do one a month. That's why this The Power of the Published, I pretty much knew a lot of this, and certainly another person you can talk to on Publish is Alex over here. Not Alex, but who am I thinking of? Who is the other one that does publishing in Austin? Come on, Stephanie.
Can't remember. Steve.
Name's going blank. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. But
You said who's another publisher in Austin?
yeah.
Are you
Mike-
talking about Are you talking about Christopher Riverwalk?
Yeah,
published in San
Christopher, thank you,
Antonio?
thank you. Yeah,
Christopher
Christopher,
Riverwalk.
because my
Yeah.
mind just went blank on his name for a minute
Yeah.
when that happened. But
Yeah,
anyway,
Christopher.
I had quite a conversation with him even before I started doing my book. But I knew a lot of this, but whatever it does is he helps you understand that when you write your book, it's not just about writing a book per se and getting a royalty and all that, but it's your business card. It opens opportunities for you. It creates your name he really stresses the importance of how it makes you the expert in your field. Because you wrote a book, you become an expert in your field, and you should really take, play on that and do that. Certainly the Heart of China, we've already heard about Todd, but I learned, I usually get so confused because I would watch these movies or attend something and somebody would get all upset or riled up, the feeling, and then they'd say, breathe. And I thought they'd be dead if they weren't breathing. What is with all this breathing thing, So I was really struggling with this whole thing about take a breath, breathe. And I thought, well, you'd be dead if you didn't. So I was kind of like very naive, I guess, on what that was all about. But boy, does he put that in perspective. You do not take it for granted anymore. And you understand the effect it has on the body. Certainly there's a lot more to Todd's book than that, but that was important to me to know that. So I think that sometimes we pull from a book, but at that particular time in our life, that one thing, that's important for us to know. And of course, there's Lainey's book, and we're in the same industry. We both went to protocol school. So, hers was a checklist for me. Okay, what does she know that I don't know? What do I know that she might not know? So it's kind of fun to go through it from that perspective. But overall, if you want a history lesson in American culture, you've got to read this one. And this is the good one to read just to learn the history of your own culture here. And I think too many Americans try to learn other cultures without totally understanding their own culture first. Right, Lainey? So that's mine. Now I'm going to see if anybody else has something they want to say on as far as the review part. Is this something you think we want to do going into 2023? What's your opinion?
Hey, Gloria, this is Dana again. I wanted to just chime in and say I really am enjoying this, as I'm sure many others are too. And when I think about books to read for the year, being a writer's coach and an author, sometimes I find I collect more books than I can read. I don't know if anybody's in that situation, but I love books. If someone said, what's a gift you want for Christmas? Built-in bookshelves, that's what I would say. and certainly more time to read. But I would be remiss if I didn't touch on two books. So I'm going to do that and just really show this one. This is The Gift of Pain that Lainey showed. And as I mentioned to you, you can flip it. And it also says the same thing. And that's important when you're thinking about your book, your logo, your branding. We talk about that in our 90 Days to Manuscript masterclass that starts January 5th. And I also want to mention one of Stephanie's books, My Will or His Will. She has a series of books of devotionals that really speaks to encouragement. And it's small inspirational nuggets that you can read any part of the day that just takes you to a place of enlightenment, deliverance, hope, and inspiration. And I appreciate the series, especially the title. And when you get into talking to authors, as you do in the author series, you find out about their journey. You find out how did they come to these topics. And yes, you are the subject matter expert when you're writing a book. So be clear on that. And I would just love an opportunity to help those who are just kind of in a position of wanting to write, but not sure where to start, and just having a 15-minute impact call and see what we can do so that you too can be in 2023 as an author if you're not already. So I want to thank you. And I'm going to throw this out there too. This is not one of our authors, but The Hill We Climb. This was the youngest inaugural poet at the Biden's inauguration. Great keepsake. So I'll just throw that out there. And I'm looking forward to reading your books, Dwayne, a couple of yours, Todd, Michael, Gloria, Lainey, Tony, you've been at the top of my list, and I've got to get that. But again, I need more book space. bookshelf space.
Yeah, I just, for the Global Women's Peace Network recently, Dana, I had a holiday tea party for them. And I thought, oh, I should have read Dana's book. She has recipes in there. So I went to a tea house and I actually ordered everything to be, delivered, the little tea sandwiches and scones.
Yes.
And I could have saved myself some money if I just read, because I know you've got recipes in your book, right?
There's recipes in the book, but
Yeah.
there's so many different things. It's about culture too. But
Yeah.
the one thing, if you said, Dana, what's one thing you want to share from that particular book you wrote? And it would be everything I know I learned over tea. And I wrote a poem about that. So I'm going to encourage you to look it over because it's just life lessons, how we deal with people, how we interact. And the need that we all have is to belong, to be invited, to be accepted, to be able to share from our own personal experiences. So yes, the tea and my travels around the world, it's significant. Yes, right? Here's my book, so Tea with Strings and Yes. But really embracing culture, embracing people and accepting, and that's talked about in Lainey's books too. So I'm just excited.
Okay, that sounds good. I think I heard somebody else was going to say something.
I was going to say something.
Good.
Since everyone's done the work of reading and reviewing the books, it'd be helpful to all the authors if you went to Amazon or other sites and posted those reviews on the Amazon site.
Yeah.
Yes, and absolutely, I agree. And I was trying to do that, but for some reason I'm having difficulty, even though the last book I bought from Amazon, and I tried to post a review, and I kept getting this pop-up that said that I didn't qualify. And I thought, how can I not qualify? I bought the book from you. So I'm going to have to make a call to Amazon and find out why every time I try to post a review, because I bought most of these books off Amazon, just a couple of them I didn't, and got them through the mail from the author direct. It was blocking me. I don't know if anyone else has had that problem.
Well, there's other sites too, like Goodreads and Barnes and Noble, all those sites that can't do it on one, try another one.
Yeah,
Right.
good. No, good suggestion. Absolutely.
Right. So, Gloria, can I share? Oh, somebody else.
Please.
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. Well, there's so many books to read, and I've been working on a couple of books of my own. And so between that and work, I've been bogged down. But I have accessed books of several of the authors. I'll start with Dwayne. I've read a couple of his books. He asked me to do a quick review, and at the time I was in the middle of some things. But he goes into great detail in terms of understanding this process, related to evaluating companies, et cetera, and performance related issues and being able to address quality issues. And so he goes into a lot of great detail, and I really appreciated the work that he did in his books, and as a consultant. And then, of course, there was Terry. I remember you when I was traveling internationally, and your book was very helpful, protocols, et cetera. And so I, I just, when you showed up, when you appeared a part of our team here, I said, wow, talk about a flash from the past. It was just great to see you, in the middle of all this, because I was on the East Coast at the time, when all that was happening, and I was doing like international travel. So thank you. Now, Todd, I was trying to connect with Todd on his book because we have some interest in that part of the world, and I still have yet to finish, but I can appreciate the conversations we've had. I can appreciate his depth of knowledge and his understanding of the culture, which is very unique and special. So I thank Todd for sharing those moments with me. Zach, I didn't read your book, but I conferred with it. I used it as sort of a reference guide, and Zach offers some wonderful insights in terms of international, sales activities and managing, people and engaging different cultures. And so I had this wonderful appreciation for what you shared in your book in terms of how do you engage with people in different cultures and trying to negotiate, et cetera. So he will offer some great gems in his book. So I thank you for those wonderful insights.
It was actually meant to be used more as a reference guide than read. I'm always, every now and again, somebody will send me a picture of them on vacation reading my book by a pool.
Right.
Oh,
I never thought that would happen, but I sort of envisioned it exactly like that. Like you were
Yes.
going to a trade show and you read the chapter on trade shows.
Right.
The recruited distributor. So thank you for the
Right.
shout.
Yeah. So it was great insights, etc. And then of course there's Lainey. Lainey has this wonderful book that kind of gives us a perspective on American culture. And so I actually, referenced your book, Lainey. Actually, two things I did with the most recent book that I just published. One is that I referenced Zach's book. He made a recommendation to me on a book that talks about culture. It's almost like an encyclopedia version of it. Remember that, Zach? We talked. And then Lainey, your book, what was interesting is put some things in perspective and made it much easier to articulate, because I kind of went out on a limb and I started talking about DEI, but I took a different perspective with DEI and started talking about it from a performance standpoint. And I wanted to see, what some of the challenges were. So Gloria, I can appreciate how you were conferring with your son about in Quantico, about not wanting to, manage people because you didn't like the styles that he was probably seeing and what he experienced. And so how do you put it in perspective from an engagement standpoint and performance? So what I did in my book, I started looking at it from a performance standpoint. So look, how do we actualize this? Because, back to Lainey and, and even Terry, the bottom line is that, cultures have existed. We've had all of these challenges. And so the challenge and the question is, how do we coexist with each other in such a way we can be productive and performance oriented? How do we produce and make change? So I'm finishing up this leadership book that I'm writing on right now, talking about some of those issues from a structural standpoint in terms of the business, et cetera. But we see pervasively that culture plays this huge role. And then during the pandemic, I saw people talking about the ecosystem, looking at that ecosystem and saying that an integral part of that ecosystem is culture. So all those practices, et cetera, is what I took from the different authors that I experienced. I didn't read the book in its entirety, but I took some special gems from all of them. So I appreciate all the wonderful information that's shared. So thank you.
thank you, Alex. Does anyone else have anything on a book before I turn the baton over to Doug as we talk about 2023 moving forward? Anyone else?
I'd be interested to hear from maybe some of the new authors where you've published in the last few months, and what's been the market reaction, and how has it been either the same or different from your expectation? What are you learning from the experience? I see Brenda, it's been a little bit longer than just a couple months, but some of you have pretty new books. What's been your experience so far? Anybody wish to share? Just unmute yourself. Is everybody?
Hi, Doug. Yeah, hi, Doug and Gloria.
hey.
Everyone. It's nice to see you. Yes. Little distracted. Someone is hacked into my account. I'm sure all of you have experienced that at one time or another. 21st century problems, right? Anyway, so I didn't know what to expect is the short answer. And so I've been open to all feedback and reactions and things like that. I think what has surprised me is the broad range of reactions and responses and the conversations that have been started, which has been great. And so, it's, I think about how differently I answer the question, who was the book written for? How differently I answered that question perhaps today than I would have answered it 6 or 8 months ago. So the different perspectives have just been really worthwhile and a bit of a surprise for me.
Interesting. So what do you take away from that? Like, are you thinking about doing another book, and how would you use that information to write in the next one?
I'm using the information. I don't know if I would call it a second book, but we are developing assets that are a companion to the current book, you know, for, I don't want to call them courses, but for learning experiences is the term I typically use in my practice and now applying to the book. So we are working on the development of some other things, you know, as I said, as a companion of the book to explore some of those different perspectives that have been shared. So it's really, it's been worthwhile learning for sure.
Very cool. Does anybody else have any 2022 market impact, you know, in your particular book reaction of
May I
expected,
offer something?
unexpected?
May
Yeah,
I
sure,
offer
Terry, please go ahead.
Thank you. So
Always.
the most recent book was published by the American Bar Association. It's this sort of slender, kiss, bow, or shake hands. I like the cover. They did a nice job. But it's far smaller than the 600 page or the other ones. And they priced it so incredibly highly. It's $69.95 for this tiny book compared to 600 pages. Okay, it's maybe 250 pages. And when you are the author, you're thinking, what on earth are you connected with reality? Do you understand who wants to buy this book? Why is it so expensive? And I've gone round and round. They are not a traditional publisher. And I will just say that I am so grateful that I kept my electronic rights. And I just ask you all to please, when you negotiate, no matter if it's Simon & Schuster or you're doing it yourself or you're working with a co-author, keep your electronic rights, because that's how most people now want to absorb data as they have time on their phone or listen to it. And having a book on a shelf is my preference because that's how I read. I bend pages, I make notes. But if you've got an unusual publisher, the book is for them, it's a bestseller. For me, I think it's a terrible seller, because unless you get, you know, a business book selling like 25,000 copies, is it even worth your while? Because you're not going to make that much, and the publisher is not going to give you another contract because they want those books on shelves. Now, to say this was in that perspective, this book's a failure to me. But the way I get around it is that I give PDF review copies of that book out to participants at every seminar. If they connect with me on LinkedIn, I tell them I will send you a PDF review copy with the watermark across it. And what does that do? They don't want to read it with the watermark. They go and they buy the ebook, which I generated for $9.99 on Amazon. And so, yeah, that's all. It's all such an unusual milieu now with publishers and with the different opportunities you have for whether it's audio or electronic or print or workbooks. You were saying, you know, you want a companion guide, a workbook, or a learning tool of some kind. We have to really be careful because the traditional publishers are not going to give you that much of a royalty, and you need to make sure that you protect your intellectual property in perpetuity. So that's what I wanted to say about my little failure book.
Hey, I have a question for you, Terry.
Yeah.
Regarding your PDF, with it being watermarked, there are tools out there now that you can remove the watermark. There's the PDF editor. So how do you prevent the watermark from being removed? Is there some type of application out there? I'm just asking because I'm not aware, but I know I can remove watermarks off of products.
You may be able to remove it off mine, but I went with a, you know, pretty good technical production environment. And so from their perspective, the other thing is, you know, this is published by the American Bar Association. So if they see that this copyright material is out there replicated in some other environment, they're going to take action. And that's one of the things that I will say, with a traditional publisher. It's really nice to have that in your, so to speak, arsenal of protecting your intellectual property. But you may be able to take that watermark off. I don't know.
Yeah, you brought up some good points too, Terry, about the protecting your electronic intellectual property. And then I know earlier on, Gloria was talking about her ISBN number with Amazon. And so I just want to add two things to that. Many times people will have an option, particularly with KDP, Kindle Publishing, which is Amazon, to get a free ISBN, which is a requirement when you're publishing, if you're publishing for sale, let's put it that way. Maybe you're just doing it for yourself. And if you accept the free KDP with Amazon, they own part of the electronic right to your book. So my one suggestion would be purchase bundles of ISBN or look for opportunities to get some free. Like I'll be doing some promotional Q&As and giving them out to potential authors. But buy them or get them where you're not tied to someone else owning your electronic material. That's very, very, very important. And then as far as the ISBN that Gloria was talking about earlier in categories, categorizing your book correctly on Amazon is key for them to move forward. And you can even go to I think it's ISBN.gov. There's a whole list and a categorization. So those are just some tips I'm throwing your way, and keep writing.
That's brilliant, actually, Dana, for a couple other things that come to mind with Gloria. Amazon is getting really aggressive in certain areas. So the Big Red Book, for example, was published by Simon & Schuster, right? Okay, so Simon & Schuster changed the title from Kiss, Bow, Shake Hands. They added The Best-Selling Guide, which it is a bestseller because it's sold quite a few. Then it was listed by Simon & Schuster on Amazon with that subtitle, and Amazon sent me a nastygram saying, you cannot call your book a bestseller. So I had to go back to Simon & Schuster and say, what's happening? They literally delisted the book. And Amazon had to interact with Simon & Schuster attorneys who tried to retain the book title, and Amazon wouldn't have it. So it's not called the best-selling book on Amazon anymore. And that's because you get so many people that are calling their own books bestsellers. And it gets picked up by, little bots and whatever, and they find that to be misrepresentation. So they're just eradicating that title unless you're, I guess, a New York Times bestseller or something to that extent. So it's not just any of us, it's them establishing protocols and policies that affect a lot of us in the long run in different ways.
Sure. Can I add one final thing to that? In terms of bestseller, at least with Amazon, I'm familiar with how they work. So you can be a bestseller from several different categories. Number one, you can be the bestseller by volume of sales. You can be a bestseller by volume of sales in a certain time window, period. So if you're launching your book on January 3rd, 2023, and you've done some pre-sales and you've done some other marketing, and your sales within this time window can make you a bestseller. You can also be a bestseller in a particular category. Like this particular book, I've got another one coming out next month, but this one is a bestseller in the category of beverages. So, and it's for a time window that Amazon promotes. So we have to understand the terminology for each platform that we're using. And of course, New York Times bestseller, they're in a whole realm of their own. So it takes a lot of research, and then just partnering with people that know, and coming to events like these where we can share and impart information.
Oh, Todd, you have a question, your hand's up. Or a comment?
I just wanted to share a little bit of an insight. I I've started, well, actually, my book has been translated into Spanish and it's going to be released in Spanish. That'll be probably my next book release. And so it's been a really interesting experience. And I just feel like it's opening up a much larger readership and opportunity. And if anybody's interested in a really good Spanish translator for their book, please contact me. I have a really good connection in Venezuela, and he's doing a great job. He works together with his brother, and they are also American Translator Associated association members.
Thank you. And Doug, any last minute? Because we have about 5 minutes here for talking about 2023. What do you want to do?
Congratulations, Todd. Thanks. Well, I think, we want to add value. We want to make it easier. I think one of the nice things this year is that we built a list of all of the authors. I sure like to have everybody go to that list and put a link in there to your own site and any information so that we can easily go there. And then the when we were talking about the reviews earlier, I'm glad, Dale, you mentioned that, because I just assumed those reviews were already ones that you had posted there. While we were talking, I Googled what are the best book sites, and there's all sorts of sites. Oh my God, there's hundreds, I would guess, but every top 10 list I saw was different, so it's, you guys know it better than I, but there are a lot of places that people go for that. And so definitely encourage folks we want to encourage the process to be easy for us to find your book, for us to review your book. And if you have any suggestions or ideas for us to make it easier and simpler, let us know. I would say also, finally, if there are things that you would like to see or things that would help you going forward, let us know. For 2023, our goal is to have monthly meetings where we have a moderator and 3 authors, and I presume it's going to be structured so that we can hear the story behind the book, and weave in tips and techniques. It'll depend on what the moderator wants to talk about, but the idea is to keep this going. So a year from now, when we get together, we'll have said something like, wow, this community has really grown. It's become a lot easier to find these books that are available. We're giving each other reviews on a regular basis and supporting each other. And those are certainly some of the things, Gloria, that I've been thinking about and would love to be able to support this group. I'm just so impressed with all of you. Thank you for the inspiration. And it's certainly helped Cesar and I to get as far as we have so that we can publish our book in 2023. Thank you so much, all of you.
Yeah, I think I just want to add this for the sake of the moderators here that are listening. The ball will be, you'll have a framework from which to work. But one of the things I'd like to suggest, if you're all agreeable to it, is that if somebody in our author group has read a book and has a review, why not contact that moderator and let them know that you'd like to share a book review at their session? And then they can call on you and they can handle the timing. What you don't want to have is like 10 people have a book review and there's not enough time for the authors to talk. And then the moderator can say, well, can you do it next month? Because it may be limited to 1 or 3. But I think having that review in each of the monthly meetings might be a nice touch. That's why I wanted to do it this way this month, so you can get a feel for it. So what is your opinion?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, Gloria. And I would say, we haven't done a good job, but we put the authors on the event page, but we haven't always put the book title. And so I would encourage all of you to be, Elise, you do this really well, I think, of, getting your information out and making sure we have the link. And I love your newsletter. You're just extraordinary. I love the book. It was awesome, especially the Japan angle and just the courage and the evolving story that you told. I'd encourage all of you to be, a promoter of your book, and we need to be better, Gloria, I think, of making sure that we have the right links and the best links every month, and maybe working with the moderators to make sure that here are the 3 authors, and then they're the author of this book, and here's a link to the book, and here's where you review it. So that's what I mean by making it easy and simple. But you need to help us. We don't we have 1,000,001 things we're trying to do, and we don't always have time to pull that together. You be the promoter for your activity, for sure.
Yeah, and so I will say, in closing here, just going to grab the baton here for a second. Any of you here who have a chance to read a book between now and the January meeting, let Dana know, and let her know that you have a review that you'd like to offer. How do you feel about that, Dana?
That's perfect. And I'll incorporate what you suggested to make sure we covered what we want to accomplish within that time frame, and then highlighting the book review towards the end to make sure we cover. Yeah, I love it.
Okay, Doug, now you got it back.
Happy holidays, everybody. Have an amazing Christmas. My book reading this Christmas will be something, you may have seen this on my LinkedIn profile, but there's an author that will have somewhere, I guess I don't see it here on the book, let's see, at some point. No, it's called Global Class. And it's, maybe I'll speak out of turn for a second. So it's 2 European guys who wrote this book, and they talk to all these experts about business, international business, and what the expertise is and what it should be, and they put it into a book. And so I'll definitely, hopefully, have them as a speaker. And we're a global chamber, right? So we're talking about international business. But what's really cool is people who do global business are involved in a lot of different things. And that makes it really interesting and entertaining to see all of your perspectives, to talk about aspects of global business and life, that you all do. So keep up the good work, keep writing, let us know how we can help. And Gloria, I turn it back to you for any final comments.
Okay, if you have any suggestions for 2023, let us know. Let us know how we can feature you. One of the things I did share with Doug might be a possibility. We have an email list now, and maybe if you have a book, or you had a pending book with a pending cover, and now everything's been finalized and published, if you want some attention on that, we could send it in an email blast with a big picture. I mean, if a lady would like to see a bigger picture of the book cover so you could read fine detail, that's certainly a consideration, and it's something we will be talking about doing.
Cool. I think it's just like book authors at globalchamber.org.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the email address, book authors at Global Chamber. I sent Valady a sample because he came up with the idea. Okay, I'll credit it back to him, but I think it's a good idea.
Okay, when you say him, who are you talking about?
Valady.
No, he's talking about me, but
yeah,
but actually was Gloria's idea.
shared.
Okay.
We shared it.
We shared the idea, and that's an excellent way of promoting everybody by just blasting one email a day, every other day, whatever, with one book. And
okay. Well, hey, Vladi, thank you. Have you said anything? Do you want to make any final comments? I don't think I've heard you today. Maybe I missed you while I was drinking.
No, I love listening. I'm a listener.
When does your book come out?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Todd's. Obviously, I know Todd very well, and we've been on delegation, so I understand his perspective on China. And I read a little bit of another book regarding business in China. I didn't talk about it, but nevertheless, the Global Chamber is doing a great job. So.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any final comments before we close the room? Terry, thank you so much for joining us today. What are you going to be doing for Christmas? Are you going to go downtown Philadelphia and see the lights?
See the mummers in New Year's Eve.
The mummers parade. Is
The
that on,
mummers.
can we watch it from here? I don't know, it's always like a
Yeah,
local.
it's just a drunk fest. It's just,
Much better
It's
to watch on
funny.
television.
yeah, yeah, it's much better.
Has anybody else seen The Mummers?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I lived in Philly for 10 years, and for half of that, it was downtown, and every Mummers parade. I mean, if you hear the history of how it all started and what goes behind it, it's just an amazing thing. Gosh, it just goes back to generations of people participating. It's a wonderful story that is kind of kept within the Philadelphia community, but it really deserves a little bit of broadcasting because it just really represents a whole dimension of Pennsylvania that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Like a drunken rose parade of some sort.
Well, it's actually a little more than that.
Yeah,
But
I'm being facetious. It's not.
no, but that's an appropriate coloration of the issue. But there's just so much
Celebration.
around it. Yeah, it's a real celebration. It really is kind of interesting, and it really brings together some of the neighborhoods, if you will, because Philadelphia is quite a city of neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And so it's just a great time. They make Broad Street come alive.
Oh, they do. And it's got a lot of history and culture and
Yeah.
traditions, kind of like New Orleans. Kind of reminds me of,
Yeah,
being down
and they
there.
actually get their families started. Some of the kids will start at very early ages. They'll get to be a part
Babies
of the
out
whole
there in the
process.
freezing cold, and they're out there doing their little thing with umbrellas. Yep, cute.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for sharing. That's a good memory from my days in Philly as well. Thanks, everybody. You have a great holiday. We'll see you, I think, Gloria, it's January 18th. It's a Wednesday. That's our next program, and Dana is the moderator, and we look forward to seeing you then. Have fun until then. Take care, everybody.
Happy
Save your
holidays.
chat. Save your chat because your review's there.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.